sort my lid out because like my hair's all over the place for wearing the headphones. Oh, do you see that thing as well? Where there's like multiple streamers who've like noticed divots in their head from wearing headphones for so long.
The weird headphone thing of just like, I think it is one of those things of it's only a temporary problem. It's not like gonna be melded into your head for the entire time, but it's just funny to see people like look to the side and just see like clear divot in their head.
They've got a divot in their head. But yes, welcome to another episode of Wiki Weekends, folks at home. Apologies for the difference in my setup, because it's different, but not different enough where it'd be noticeable. It's just the camera's slightly closer to me because I was streaming the other day, so I didn't want to move it.
Slanderous. You can go watch that at twitch.tv/Karlswood.
Oh, that's a nice organic plug there.
Doing it virtually, though? No fuss, no muss. Straight to the brain.
As always, I'm talking with my ever illustrious co-host, Lucas Holland, who is off camera for you guys. Not going to say anything, Lucas? You're going to leave me hanging?
No, I was just going to leave you.
Okay, well, today we're talking about Jack Reacher.
Line 'em up. Your time is up, time is up, time is up. So line 'em up.
So far away, Lucas, you're not too familiar with the Jack Reacher character. Have you seen the movies, the TV show, or read the books?
No. I know that, like, was it Tom Cruise was Jack Reacher for a little bit, and then they got everybody's favourite Hawk to replace him.
I will say Alan Richardson is really, really good as Jack Reacher. But for people like Lucas who aren't familiar with the character of Jack Reacher, as always, there's a link to the wiki we're reading from below. But just so we're on the same page, the basic first paragraph here. Jack Reacher is the protagonist of a series of crime thriller novels by British author Lee Child. And that's the thing, it's like he's a British author, but like Jack Reacher is a very American character.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I was like, oh, yeah, I thought he was like, he's like CIA or something like that, very American.
Yeah, it's written by a British author. And the funny thing is, like, Lee Child went to the University of Sheffield. Like, he's an alumni of the University of Sheffield, and he just writes, like, American crime novels. So
does that mean we have to dislike him because we're at Holland?
Uni of, yeah. So he's also the protagonist of a 2012 film adaptation, its 2016 sequel, and a television series on Amazon Prime Video, which I do recommend, because I think I've read a couple of the short stories and the novels. They're pretty good. And I think the Amazon TV series is really good because it's like an adaptation of the first book.
Jack Reacher has deceased, retired Army.
Bronze Star, Silver Star, and a Purple Heart.
What in God's name does a guy like that doing in Margrave?
What's a guy like that doing in jail? Zip ties?
Cuffs didn't fit him. You guys recycle.
Right, okay, yeah.
Which is a good way to adapt like a book, isn't it? Of like a TV series, like it's like 8 episodes.
Yeah, each season being a new book. That makes sense.
And then in the stories, Jack Reacher was a major in the US Army Military Police. Having left the Army at age 36, Reacher roams the United States taking odd jobs and investigating suspicious and frequently dangerous situations. And one of the details I love about like the Jack Reacher character is like he just roams America solving problems. He's just a hobo man. He's like the Incredible Hulk.
He isn't like a hired agent or anything. He's just a
dude.
Just a dude roaming around.
Yeah, and like they mentioned that in the TV show where he just roams around. He gets a bus to a new part of this, like America, just roams around, takes an odd job, gets a bit of money, and then just goes to the next place.
That make him a vigilante.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I genuinely thought it was some kind of, I mentioned Tom Cruise, like almost like Mission Impossible-esque character of like being part of this super secret government agency or something.
Well, that's it. He got his military connections, and they keep talking about like this legendary reputation that he has, and he always has a friend in high places he can call for assistance if he needs to. Mm-hmm. But also he can also just rely on like just these babies right here. But
Twist off. Show off.
In regards to the books, as of the 24th of October 2023, there have been 28 novels plus several short stories featuring the character that have been published. The most recent novel is The Secret. 3 of the novels have been adapted to the screen. 2 of the adaptations are films starring Tom Cruise as the character. Jack Reacher in 2012, which is from the 9th novel One Shot, and Jack Reacher Never Go Back from 2016 from the 18th novel Never Go Back. A 3rd adaptation is a television series starring Alan Richardson, Reacher, which is adapted from the first novel Killing Floor.
It makes a lot more sense to start at the first novel than the 9th.
Yeah, and this is where we need to talk about the character here. So we have like some basic biographical information of like in-universe information: nickname, Reacher, gender, male, occupation, U.S. Army Military Police Corps, a major in that, a private investigator, a drifter, and a vigilante. And something he keeps saying in the show, and they keep calling him like a bum, is I'm not a bum, I'm a hobo. Like, a hobo is someone who chooses not to work. A bum is someone who doesn't work and just lounges around. A hobo chooses not to and takes odd jobs. I'm a hobo.
Okay, I mean, okay, yeah, I get it's a weird distinction to make, I guess, but...
Well, that's the thing, and one of the quotes that he always says, which is from the books, is details matter, and that's one of the things. Yeah, so it's like phenomenal ability for like recalling information, like an almost encyclopedic knowledge of like near enough everything that he investigates.
Medical examiner puts the victim's time of death at around midnight last night.
This morning. It's last night until 11:59 and 59 seconds, and then it becomes this morning. In an investigation, details matter.
12 a.m. this morning.
Okay.
And one of the details that's like really funny is that in the books he's 6'5", and he's played by Tom Cruise.
That is one thing that I remember people being really upset about when Tom Cruise got announced. Is like, I knew nothing about Jack Reacher, but everyone was like, Tom Cruise is like this, like relatively, you know, he's under average height male who's like not got the biggest build, and Jack Reacher's meant to be this huge guy.
Which is why, like, you know, Alan Richardson playing him, he looks like Jack Reacher doesn't, like the way you'd imagine him, like, built like a brick shithouse. But
yeah.
We should note that there's some similarities between Reacher and the author Lee Child. So Brian Curtis, writing for Grantland, and Natasha Harding and Caroline Igulden, in a separate article for The Sun, have pointed out various similarities between Child, the author, and Reacher, the character. Child is 6'4" tall, while the protagonist stands at 6'5" tall. Both writer and creation constantly consume coffee. Like Reacher, Child lives in a cheap pair of jeans and t-shirts and finds the idea of buying expensive clothes to be irrational. And that's like another neat thing about Reacher, that he just wears jeans and a t-shirt all the time. And all he does is when his clothes get worn out, he just goes to a Goodwill, buys more jeans, another t-shirt, and leaves, and that's it.
So you just go wherever you want, whenever you want?
Everyone's always jealous.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting approach to life.
Works for me.
I will say, that must be so nice for like production. Just
yeah, it's
all
nice, easy costume to wear.
Easy costume work, just t-shirt and jeans.
And they have, like, you know, played like some like jokes with that. Like, there was a bit where he tried to get changed, so his friend's like just dumpster diving and doing those like donation bins, and she gives him a t-shirt that's like ridiculously tight, and he's like, really, really.
I got reminded not long ago about like the first TV appearance of Alan Richardson, is it?
Yeah.
And his first appearance on TV was that he was on, I think it's X Factor.
What?
And yeah, so there's just a clip of him that I saw where it's like, he knew that he wasn't going to get by on his singing, so he basically just played like, he hammed it up for the camera and pretended to have a sob story, and then just hit on the female judge. And Simon Cowell and another judge leave the room, and it's just him doing like a like solo audition and going up to this woman and like hitting on her.
You are the sunshine of my life.
Ooh.
That's why I always stay around. You are the apple of my eye.
Oh.
Forever you'll stay in this heart.
Fair enough.
And I was like, that's his first appearance. He was like, I'm not a good enough singer to win the X Factor, but I can make this memorable.
There's a bunch of actors like that, isn't where they find out that their earliest role was something embarrassing, like.
You know that we're coming on strong because we keep coming on.
We mentioned for the video you recorded of like Timothy Chalamet, where like his first like exposure to the outside world was he was modding Xbox controllers on YouTube.
I guess that's spoilers for tomorrow's video.
Yeah, trying to figure out what we talked about, and if you're watching this on the day it was released, and it also says in regards to like Reacher's impressive like and statuesque physique in the books. It said that this was possibly based on Lee Child's own physical qualities as a child. He was a large dude, but when he was a kid, he was a massive kid. So he's a large man, but he was a ginormous child. He also notes, a quote from Child here, I was huge as a kid, and Reacher's stature is me translated as a kid. I enjoyed being bigger and fighting shamelessly. I've done a fair amount of headbutting. It's an awesome maneuver. And that's the thing of, like, Reacher's signature move is just the headbutt.
That's such a weird thing. Like, yes, I was in many a fight. The headbutt is great.
Well, I think, like, Reacher's whole thing is, like, the nut. And there's, like, a great fight scene in, like, the TV show where someone goes to punch him and he headbutts their hand and breaks it.
Oh, Graham, you idiot.
You're about to get your ass kicked.
No. I'm just gonna break the hands of 3 drunk kids.
There's 4 of us here.
One of you's gotta drive to the hospital.
Ooh.
It's like, I got in quite a lot of fights when I was a teenager, and I headbutted somebody once and never again. I was like, that shit's really painful.
The fight scenes in the TV show are amazing, but it's because Reacher has this, like, really no-nonsense attitude. And, like, the fact as well, because obviously he's, like, Alan Ritchson is a fucking huge dude, and, like, I think he's 6'3" in real life, but he's playing a character who's 6'5". And, like, the fact that people keep picking on him, it's like, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, there's a bit where he's, like, going back to his hotel room, and, like, a bunch of kids are like, we're going to beat you up. And he just looks at them and goes, all I see are 3 people with broken hands. And they say, but there's 4 of us dipshit, because one of you's got to drive to the hospital. Breaks all of their hands, and the last one goes, I know the way to the hospital, and runs off.
I know where the hospital is.
Yeah, it's just, you look at the size of that man, and you're like, why would you mess with him?
Yeah, so we have here, author commentary and interpretation. Childs views Jack Reacher as a happy-go-lucky guy. He has quirks and problems, but the thing is, he doesn't know he's got them, hence no tedious self-pity. He's smart and strong, introvert, but any anguish he suffers is caused by others. He once asked about the casting of Tom Cruise in the role of Jack Reacher. Cruise's casting as Jack Reacher was met with severe criticism from fans of the books, primarily because of the disparity in their heights. Reacher is portrayed as a blonde, 6'5", 196 centimeters tall, 250-pound man in the novels, while Cruise is a 5'7" brunette. Almost a foot of height in difference.
Yeah, I do think it makes it a lot weirder as well that, like, clearly there is some emphasis on the fact that he's a big guy. It's not just, oh, he happens to be big. It's like he's, as you know, you say, it's meant to be like a reflection upon the author himself, and clearly talks a lot about how big this guy is. And it's like, Tom Cruise.
Yeah, but Child's response was that Reacher's size in the books is more of a metaphor for an unstoppable force. Is that thing like, okay, he's a big dude, but that's just a good way of visually representing, I guess not visually in the books, but, you know, in your mind's eye visually representing how strong he is. And Tom Cruise does do a great role as Reacher. I like those Jack Reacher movies with Tom Cruise, and they similarly have, that was a fight scene, like a very Jack Reacher style fight scene where he's fighting 3 dudes. And he's just like, okay, so do you want to fight me? And they're like, yeah. And he goes, okay, so I'm going to knock 3 of you out. It's like, there's 5 of us dipshit. And it's like, 3 of you, like 2 people always run away. And just the fight scene is him grabbing the guy by the leg and just punching him repeatedly in the nuts until his friends run away. And it's just, imagine that as your last sight. It's like consciousness fades from your mind of just watching your friends run away as your testicles get annihilated.
Really?
And that's the thing is, you know, if that's the case of just it's meant to represent how unstoppable he is, like, when I watch Mission Impossible for movies, I still think of, like, Ethan Hunt as a pretty unstoppable force.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, Tom Cruise does play that, and the Reacher fight scenes in those movies are really good. So Childs has also commented that Reacher is a post-feminist, stating that he does not parlay in gender distinction. Reacher likes strong, realistic women, and he treats women with respect. He doesn't cut them any slack, but also he has no negative preconceptions. If you are a woman, he will be your friend, but if necessary, he will kill you. And there are, like, a number of female characters in the series, like in the books, in the movies, and in the TV show. Like, you know, he forms, like, strong, like, relationships with female characters. Like, he just, in the Amazon TV show, there's just this lady from his past who's, like, he's really good friends with, and there's a really funny bit where he's like, how are you going to find her? She didn't tell you where she'd be. And he goes through all these things in his head of like, well, she'd want to go here, she'd make this decision, she'd do this, so she'd go to like this restaurant. And then she rocks up behind him. And he goes, because he says like, oh, she wouldn't want to stop anywhere fancy. And he finds a restaurant, she finds him. And she says to him like, oh, I knew you'd be here. And he goes, it's okay, so where's your hotel? And she goes, oh, I'm in the Four Seasons, baby. So what? He goes, yeah, but I knew that you'd know that I do this.
Right,
like,
yeah.
There's that thing of like, she knows him well enough to know that that's the thought process he'd go through.
Jack the Beanstalk's going straight for the mess hall.
And you knew I'd come to a bistro because my mother was French.
It's got the biggest sign. You're not that complicated.
Playing the mind games. It's like, it's nice to hear that, you know, there's that kind of character, because obviously there's one that we mention a lot of, like James Bond, just like going back to those movies can be really tough because of how much of just like a sexist arsehole he is that doesn't respect women. Yeah. It's like, oh god, it's so infuriating to like read and watch things where it's like, can you all just treat women like human beings?
Yeah, and that's something like, that's very important to Reacher's character, where like it's more about, it's the content of your character that he cares about. And that's why he struck like, again, same thing with race. Of like in the Reacher, the TV show, again, like one of the characters that he ends up like teaming up with is a black dude, and it's set in the South. And there's like a lot of like outright and like just subtle racism expressed towards that character. And Reacher is pissed off by that idea.
Yeah, it's just treat people as fucking humans and respect them for who they are.
You know, it's hard to tell with the suit on, but you're kind of jacked, Finley.
Really?
No.
Exactly. We have here skills and abilities, because that's what we're talking about here. So he's basically a superhero in the books. So Reacher is a brutally proficient hand-to-hand fighter. He is quite fast for his height and often fights opponents his size or much larger. His skill is attributed to the fact he grew up all over the world due to being in a Marine Corps family. While he's not a master in any one singular form of combat, he tends to incorporate moves from various styles, although his favourite moves are headbutts, elbow strikes, and kicks to the groin. So that's the thing, obviously, like being a military guy, like his fighting style is like just incredibly pragmatic, brutal, and to the point. And he's not above fighting dirty in a situation that calls for it.
He's not sitting there learning a bunch of different martial arts. It's like just, brutal efficiency, just headbutt the guy.
Yeah, like a fight scene from the first episode is like he gets sent to prison, and he's in prison, and a guy comes in and starts like, squaring up to him, staring him down. And he says, I'll give you to the count of 3 to get out of my prison cell. And he's like, 1, 2, and then just elbows the guy in the throat and smashes his head into the wall.
1, 2.
And it's just that thing of like, yeah, like that's not fighting fair, but why would you fight fair against someone who's trying to fight you 3-on-1? Like, they're not fighting fair, why should I?
Yeah, I don't know much about prison, but it doesn't sound like the place for fair fights.
Yeah. In regards to Reacher's fighting style, Childs has described it as, and I quote, Reacher's fighting style is like throwing a running chainsaw into a crowd. Which is a very poetic way of putting it, isn't it? Just,
but I guess it is kind of a bit refreshing to hear, like, oh yeah, as you say, this almost like superhero level main character that can defeat anyone in a fight, but it's like he's just this maelstrom of punches and headbutts rather than like being, super well trained or anything. Like, he is obviously.
He's well trained, yeah, but he incorporates like many different elements of fighting styles that will allow him to just end the fight as quickly as possible. And he's like, it's pure pragmatism in that sense. Like, he'll headbutt, he'll throw elbows, he'll kick you in the nuts. And we have like more on that here. So he generally goes with the flow of a fight, caring about winning more than how he wins in particular. He plans out to strike first or react to the first strike, and how he'll make sure the other person never fights him again. As Reacher, the character himself, once puts it in one book, the other guy cares how he wins. I care about pissing on the other guy's grave.
Remember, you wanted this. It's okay. You're okay. Get up.
Fucking hell.
And that's why, like, he does the thing of, like, in almost every fight he has, he'll, like, incapacitate the person very, very efficiently. Like I said, like, there's the 4 kids who try fighting him, and he just he headbutts one in the hand and breaks it.
It's such a funny image of, like, you're going to punch me in the head. No, I'm going to headbutt your punch.
But then you look at him and you think, he probably could do that. Like, a guy this size probably could just headbutt your hand and break it instantly. Reacher has an internal body clock. He sets a time and wakes up at, and his body automatically awakens. It's don't have an alarm or anything like that.
Power up.
He often sets a timer in fights to try and get a tactical edge. He also has a deep fascination with numbers. In the novel Bad Luck and Trouble, Reacher deduces the amount of money deposited without his knowledge into his bank account was a message from Neagley, his colleague from the military police corps. And that's something else about Neagley's that lady I mentioned who's like really good. And like they have like secret communications, like when they're talking on the phone when he's like got a gun to his head. And said, "Oh, how'd you figure it out, Reacher?" And he goes, "Oh, you know, just a lucky guess." And then she rocks up like an episode later. Because how do you know Reacher was in trouble? Like, Reacher doesn't believe in luck.
Right.
Like, he has these, like, really firm friendships with people, like, where just that subtle thing he'll mention, like, you'll hear something, like, there's something amiss.
Yeah, like him mentioning that, oh, lucky, is like, well, that's kind of that subtle signal to her of, like, well, something's a bit off because he wouldn't rely on luck.
He doesn't believe in luck, yeah. I love how he's got an internal clock.
Yeah, I'm so confused by the idea of just, like, he just ran, like, whenever he wants to power up, he just powers back on.
Yeah. Just like a robot.
Jericho has to go for a cover here.
Yeah, just...
Has an extremely acute deduction skill. He generally gains information from simply talking to or making minute observations. He will pick up on simple pauses and relate it back to whatever he's trying to figure out. He's known as one of the best investigators in the Army Military Police Corps had to offer, and he had a special unit tasked with difficult cases. And that's like, you know, just right material for some of the novels, like where he flashed back to his time, where he's solving like problems in the military. He's also an incredibly skilled marksman, being the only non-Marine to win the US Marine Corps 1,000-yard invitational rifle competition. It's like he doesn't often use guns, but when he does, it's like, why would you fight this man?
Just, like, is he allowed to do that if he's not a Marine?
I guess you can. The thing is, though, it's probably a novel. You can probably take some liberties with a truth, guy, if you're writing a book. So, habits and beliefs. So, Reacher has a love for music, especially blues, and that's like a running theme throughout the first season of the Amazon show. It's like, why were you in this, like, podunk town in the middle of Georgia? It's like, I'm here to see Blind Blake, a blues musician. And like, okay, but why are you really here? It's like, I came to hear about this dude.
It's very fitting, isn't it? The hobo that likes to listen to blues.
Yeah, and he says like he just heard him on the radio and thought, I want to go to where he was buried, and just gets on a bus to the town, and that's how he falls into the mystery of that season, that novel.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I'm sure like a lot of it is like it gets repetitive over time. Of oh, this guy happens to just like come to this place at the right time again.
And that's why sometimes he works. But then again, it's that thing of like, there's always something going on. And when you're working as a private investigator, and trouble seems to find him. Like, I think on the day this video is going to be released, it's like the second season will have aired. And the trailer they used to advertise the second season, he's waiting in line at the bank to get some like his money. Because he says like, the only money he gets is army pension, just deposit into a bank, like, you know, like once a month. And he's waiting in a queue, and the lady in front of him, he notices something's amiss, and he just says like, "Don't turn around. Where are they?" And she's like, "What?" And he goes, "The money." Like she sees that she's withdrawing loads and loads of money. He goes, "Where are your kids?"
You've been carjacked, right? Don't turn around. This won't take long.
Does he have a gun? And it's like, yeah. And he goes, "Don't move." And he just walks over, because obviously he notices that something's wrong. And just walks over and just punches through the glass and drags the guy out, the kidnapper out, and just beats the fuck out of him.
Wait, who are you?
Someone who prefers not getting involved.
Yeah, and I guess when you have skills like that and notice shit like that, yeah, of course, you're going to run into more trouble than the average person.
Especially as well when you've got this deep sense of like, you know, inherent duty to help people. Well, you know, he loves his blues music. He reveals in the novel that he doesn't have, like, you know, a device that plays music and instead has a music collection in his head, replaying tracks as he travels without the need of technology that others seem obsessed and burdened by.
I mean, not everyone has the ability to replay songs in their head.
And that's just one of those like novel things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, okay, like the character. If we have him in headphones in every scene, it'd probably look lame.
Yeah, it's like, okay, sure, let's write this like magical ability to just listen to music in his head, but
Yeah, but it does mean as well like the show has like a really neat aesthetic of like because it's always playing like these really old blues tracks.
Mm-hmm.
But then like they have like the black police chief is obsessed with like Journey and stuff.
Oh right,
and that's something like him and Reacher keep coming like they keep getting frustrated by each other. Where it's just like, why are you listening to that white boy music? And it's like, why aren't you?
What are you doing?
Gotta say, white guys don't get their due, they can rock out.
Reacher espouses no personal religious beliefs, but is scathing in his dismissal towards Boss Town Thurman's fundamentalist Christian position in the novel Nothing to Lose. When asked if he is born again, Reacher replies, quite wryly, "Once was enough for me." He later rhetorically asks Thurman, "I'm here to visit the sick and you want to have me beaten up? What kind of Christian are you?" He also mentions at the opening of Bad Luck and Trouble that he avoids travelling on Alaska Airlines because they put scripture card on the meal trays, which just sounds weird.
Fuck's sake. Yeah, like, oh god, it's one of those of just, I don't give a shit what your beliefs are, but when you're doing shit like that, like, stop espousing it to me.
Yeah, Reacher is also critical of the corruption of traditional spelling, such as the use of contractions like U for you or low for low, and he dislikes the absence of an apostrophe in the don't walk pedestrian sign.
Wait, what? Is there not?
Yeah, it did used to have one. I wrote an article about this for Top 10. Not Top 10, Today I Found Out. Where the don't walk sign used to have an apostrophe in it, but it cost like a little bit of money to do and everyone already knows what it means, so they stopped putting it in. And Reacher's pissed off by it.
So it's don't walk.
Yeah. But you know what it means. And that's the thing of like, because you know what it means, you don't need it there. And like, but Reacher... You know what? I'm with Reacher on this. I'm with the boomers on this one.
Like, that's the thing is, like, yeah, it should have an apostrophe. I'm annoyed by that, but it's one of those things because, like, your brain auto-corrects and, like, autofills, basically, with a language that you're very familiar with. Like, it's something a lot of people won't notice. I'm with Reacher on that. Yeah.
It says that among his few indulgences are casual sex and coffee. And the thing is, though, when you're a man like that, why not? And then it says, speaking of which, physical appearance. Brian Curtis, in an interview with Lee Child, describes Reacher thusly. His face looked like it'd been chipped out of a rock by a sculptor who had ability, but not much time. And that's, like, such a good line. That's such a good, like, novel line, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He's described in the novel A Wanted Man as one of the largest men someone had ever seen outside of the NFL. He was extremely tall, extremely broad, long-armed, and long-legged. The lawn chair was regular size, but it looked tiny under him and was bent and crushed out of shape. His knuckles were nearly touching the ground, his neck was thick, and his hands the size of dinner plates. A wild man, but not really underneath. Everything else seemed strangely civilized. His gaze was both wise and appealing, both friendly and bleak, both frank and utterly cynical.
And yeah, there's times like this where like I can understand why people would be weirded out by the idea that Tom Cruise will play this character because it's expressed so much how much he is like this big person.
Yeah, speaking of which, he's also described as being 6 feet 5 inches tall, weighing 210 to 250 pounds, and there's no way he weighs 210 pounds and looks like he does in like, or he's described the way he does in all. I weigh 210 pounds. He's described as having a 50-inch chest. In Never Go Back, he's described as having a six-pack like a cobbled city street, a chest like a suit of NFL armor, biceps like basketballs, and subcutaneous fat like a Kleenex tissue. In his youth, his physical appearance was likened to that of a bulked-up greyhound. Just buff greyhound. He also reveals that his size is purely genetic. He states in Persuader and Never Go Back that he is not much of an exercise enthusiast, which again gets referenced in the show, where he orders his meal and it's like, you know, oh, here's your fried chicken, here's your collard greens, like here's like, you know, your sweet potato mash. And like the police chief's just eating like a spinach salad. And Reacher's like, I was embarrassed to order that. And he's like, how do you eat like you do and look like that? And he goes, genetic, mate. Just born lucky.
How do you eat like that and still look like you do?
Like this.
I'm sorry, but the way that I know, like, I've seen the actor in Titans and, like...
He's fucking ginormous,
him without a shirt on, that person works the fuck out.
Yeah, he does. Like, he is fucking ginormous. But yeah, then there's like a bunch more stuff, like, you know, his history in the books, and there's a bunch of like military trivia, which I'm not really going to talk about, because the one thing you don't want to do when you're doing content online is say something wrong or incorrect about any branch of the military. So we're going to leave that for another day or another content creator. But yeah, I would highly recommend like the Reacher TV series. Like, the second season just dropped. I'll be watching that over Christmas. I recommend the Tom Cruise movies for a laugh, because it's really funny to watch Tom Cruise really desperately try and look taller.
Nice big 6'2" man, isn't he?
Well, there's that really cringy quote from Tom Cruise where he talks about how guys square up to him because he's 6 feet tall.
Oh, fuck off.
Or the one where, like, in all of the Mission Impossible movies, like, I don't know how they do it, and I think there's NDAs that people have signed so they don't tell you how it's realised, but Ving Rhames is 6'4", and he looks the same size as Tom Cruise does in Mission Impossible movies.
Just like Ving Rhames just run around on his knees, like...
That's the thing. It's like, but yeah, it's just really funny because he obviously, like, Tom Cruise looks like a guy you want to fucking mess with, and he does that, and he does, because he's a great actor. They have a great bit where he's like getting arrested by some cops, and he's like, well, here's what's going to happen. In about a minute, you're going to undo these handcuffs and say sorry. He goes, what makes you say that? And he goes, well, that phone's going to start ringing, and there's going to be a guy on the other end of the line that you want to talk to. And they're like, the cops like really incredulous, and then the phone starts ringing.
Well, that is one magnificent prophecy, Mr. Reacher.
That'll be a Major Turner of the 110 CID Military Police in Alexandria, Virginia. You and those boys out there made a mistake operating on land owned by the U.S. Army.
And he's really good at representing that facet of the character, but he just doesn't have the physically imposing physique that Reacher is known for in the books.
I will ruin your life with one phone call.
I'll end your life with one phone.
But even the author of the books has said, well, it's not really that important. It's more a metaphorical thing, and it's just a really good visual shorthand for do not fuck with this guy. Like, when a guy is 6'5" and wider than a car door, you don't really need to tell people not to fuck with him, because you just know not to fuck with a guy who looks like that.
Yeah, it's just implied, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, but either way, yeah, that's Jack Reacher. And if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe for more. Leave comments below with your favourite Reacher moment, or like characters who are, like, you know, similarly not to be messed with in their original source material. Like the video, and as always, like, have the day you all deserve, and we'll see you after Christmas. Cheers.
All my life I've been a traveling man. All my life I've been a traveling man. Staying alone and doing the best I can.